What's going on, everyone? Welcome into the FantasyPros YouTube channel. My name is Kyle Yates, and I'll be with you for the next hour answering your start-sit questions and making sure that you are ready for today's games. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. For those who joined Mike Tagliere the last hour, we apologize for the technical difficulties. Understand that there are some things that just didn't go right, but we appreciate your patience, appreciate you sticking with us. I will be with you again, like I said, for the next hour, just to give you a little bit of a rundown on what the schedule is going to look like. I will be going through some of the ins and outs, right? The actives and inactives for today's matchups and Mondays, of course, so that way you know who to get out of your lineup. And, of course, the fantasy implications of that, right? With some of these players sitting out, that's going to boost up some of these other players. So I'm going to talk through those, and then I'll spend as much time as I can going through as many questions as I can post them in the chat. Like I said, this is a Q&A here, so doing that Q&A section here as soon as I go through the actives and inactives and making sure that you are ready for your fantasy football matchup. Again, thank you so much for joining us. Please make sure to hit the subscribe button if you have not already, and then make sure to like this video as well. And again, I'll just mention this. Again, it's on the screen right there, but you can find and follow me on Twitter at KyleYNFL. All right, guys, let's dive into it. Looking at some of the actives and inactives for today's game. Chris Godwin ruled out. Okay, so Chris Godwin was in a prime position here. This was going to be an excellent matchup for him against Carolina, but in the concussion protocol, there was a slight glimmer of hope on Friday that he was going to be active, but that didn't come to be, dealing again with the concussions here. So he was ruled out, and he is not going to be active for this game. That boosts Mike Evans up in a favorable matchup here. He's someone that I really like. And then, of course, this also inflates Justin Watson and Scotty Miller. So Scotty Miller will assume the full slot role in this offense. And of course, we know how much Tom Brady loves targeting that slot role. Again, the Bucs are favored heavily in this game. Okay, so we expect points to go up on the board. I like Mike Evans. I like Scotty Miller as a wide receiver 3 option in full PPR. I think you can plug him in. But again, we'll get through some of these where we'll do the in comparison, right? I'm sure there are going to be Scotty Miller questions. And then if you are absolutely desperate at the wide receiver position and Justin Watson is sitting there on your waiver wire, I think he can be plugged in as a fine flex option for you. I think he's someone that you can roll in and just hope that he scores. Again, it's a fine matchup, and there's a good possibility that he comes away with a touchdown. So again, Chris Godwin ruled out. Make sure that he is out of your lineup. Michael Thomas was the other big one. We were saying all week that we did not expect Michael Thomas to play in this matchup. And it comes to be that, well, again, slight glimmer of hope, right? But that was never really happening. We could all say, like, no, he's not going to play in this game. You're not risking him in a matchup that you should still favorably win. So Michael Thomas out in this matchup. This boosts Emmanuel Sanders up into a wide receiver 3, in my opinion, because, again, you can't just assume that Emmanuel Sanders is going to walk in and assume the full target share that Michael Thomas would. I expect them to lean on the run game, which is why I have Latavius Murray as a top 24 option this week at the running back position. And then, again, Alvin Kamara should absolutely smash in this matchup. I have him as a top 5 option like most weeks, okay? So Tre'Quan Smith, the other implication here, he's someone that, again, in that territory of a Justin Watson, I think I have them back-to-back in my rankings. I'm fine rolling either one of them in as a flex option, but with both of them, you're hoping that they score. Jared Cook is the other main beneficiary here. I love him. I have him as a top 10 option this week. I think again, Latavius Murray and Jared Cook revenge game here against the Raiders. Kenny Golladay. This was a question mark to see if he was going to be able to suit up. He is not going to be able to. So Marvin Jones moves up into a top 30 wide receiver for me. Damian Amendola is someone that you can roll in kind of in the same territory of a Scotty Miller in full PPR. He's someone that I'm fine with you rolling in as a wide receiver 3 or flex option. The targets are going to be there. And then TJ Hawkinson. TJ Hawkinson should be another fine play this week as a top 12 option. I really like him in this matchup as well. And I think this is going to be a high scoring affair. I think you're going to see some points put up on the board in this one. So I'm fine grabbing pieces in this one where they fall. George Kittle. George Kittle is inactive in this game. He wasn't going to practice all week, and I was really concerned. I was saying that if he's not practicing all week against the Jets, I really just didn't see him playing in this matchup, even though they were saying that he's going to not practice all week and try to suit up on Sunday. I didn't see that happening. And that, of course, is the result here. He's not suiting up for this game. They're Mohamed Sanu, who's just added to the 49ers roster. He will be playing in this game. Brandon Ayuk, I believe, is playing as well. And then, of course, you do have Jordan Reed still there at the tight end position. So I think if you're in a bind now because you had George Kittle, and if you drafted George Kittle within the second or third round in your draft, you most likely do not have another tight end on your roster. So you could be saying, I need to start someone. And if you're in a deeper league, Jordan Reed is most likely going to be on your waiver wire. I think he is a fine fill-in option. And again, because the 49ers need receiving weapons. So I think Jordan Reed is a fine option. But again, he's one of those guys in like the top 15, not necessarily saying that you should start him as a top 12 option, okay? As a guarantee, right? A.J. Brown for the Tennessee Titans, he is inactive in this game, dealing with that knee issue, that bone bruise. This boosts up Corey Davis. Corey Davis had question marks coming into this matchup if he was going to be fully ready to play. He is active and he will be playing. Corey Davis is now a wide receiver 3 just based on volume alone in this matchup. And then I do think that this boosts Jonnu Smith into a top 5 option. I don't think Adam Humphries is going to be someone who soaks up targets in this offense. He'll get his targets on third down and everything. But if I really like Ryan Tannehill this week, which I do, I have him as a top 12 option, then I should like the pass catchers who are there, which is Corey Davis and Jonnu Smith. So Jonnu Smith is a smash play this week. I love him in this matchup. And again, we saw the talent. We saw the opportunity last week against Denver. I think he will be there, or he'll be in that range again and should produce for you. Darrington Evans was someone that he's the running back for the Tennessee Titans. You weren't really considering him at all. He's inactive. Jack Doyle, the tight end for the Indianapolis Colts, is also inactive in this matchup. Jack Doyle wasn't someone who was seeing a ton of targets with Phillip Rivers, but yet, at least in week 1. But yet what this does is it opens up when you have Mo Alley Cox as the next tight end on the roster. They signed someone from their practice squad, I believe. So I think Mo Alley Cox is the next guy up. He's not someone who's going to see more than 3 or 4 targets in this game. He could come away with a touchdown just like any other random player, right? But looking at the opportunity here, I think this boosts up Nyheim Hines even more, opening up some targets here for Nyheim Hines over the middle of the field. So Hines, even in a half PPR, is a RB2 in my opinion this week in this matchup. I really, really like him. Jamison Crowder, there were question marks. He was in a prime position to absolutely just go off in this matchup. It's not going to happen. He was dealing with a hamstring injury, missed practice both on Wednesday and Thursday, I believe. And so I'm not sure about Friday. I'm assuming that he missed it if he's not playing. So Jamison Crowder out of your lineups, even though this was going to be an amazing opportunity for him. As far as the implications of this trickling down the rest of the roster, Chris Herndon is the only other one that you want to be considering. Chris Hogan, Brashad Perryman, no thank you. I'll let someone else roll the dice with them. Chris Herndon is the only other one, and I'm plugging him in as a top 15 option only in full PPR leagues. Sam Darnold is going to be under pressure all game long. This is someone who he's going to look at Chris Herndon in this matchup and just target him. I don't think it's going to equate to top tier production, but I think that he is someone that you can roll in as a fine fill-in option in PPR. Let's say that you did have George Kittle, who is now missing this game. You can pivot and go to Chris Herndon there, okay? If he's on your waiver wire. Alshon Jeffrey, again, wasn't someone that we were considering to be active, but he is inactive for this game. Phillip Lindsay, dealing with the turf toe, inactive. And then Le'Veon Bell. Le'Veon Bell is inactive. I'm going to talk about this really quick because one of the actives is LaMichael Pirine. Okay, so we have Frank Gore and Kalen Ballage now as your main running backs here in New York I just went through the pass catchers, right? There's essentially no one. Neither of those guys is a great pass catching back. However, they do have a rookie on the roster, 4th-round pick out of Florida, whose tape I loved, and that's LaMichael Pirine. If you are in a dynasty league, right, this is a dynasty-only thing. I'm not saying that you should pick him up and roster him in your redraft league or in your shallow redraft league or anything like that. But if you have an open bench spot in your dynasty league and LaMichael Pirine is on your waiver wire, I would pick him up and I would stash him, see what his involvement looks like in this offense. I loved his tape. Again, it's a tough matchup, so I'm not expecting top-tier production or anything like that. I'm going to clarify. Do not start him. Do not go anywhere, have him anywhere near your starting lineup. But he is active in this game. I loved his talent coming out of college, and I think that he could be someone who could hit eventually down the road. So if you do have that open spot, I would recommend rostering LaMichael Pirine. Not expected to play, Duke Johnson, the Houston Texans running back. in a tough matchup, this doesn't really boost up David Johnson all that much for me. David Johnson is at RB19 in my rankings right now off the top of my head. So he's someone that I think you can expect RB2 production from. But again, it's a very tough matchup. And Duke Johnson wasn't taking away a ton of touches. Justin Jackson was the only other running back that is not expected to play at this point. He's not someone that I'm looking at either, or that you should have been in any sort of format. Expected to play. Let's get into these really quick because we got to get to your questions. Cortland Sutton, the Denver Broncos wide receiver, is expected to play. Now, you also do have KJ Hamler coming back into the lineup here in this game. So, with KJ Hamler, Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy, and Noah Fant all in the lineup, this is something that kind of bumps down all of the options here. Cortland Sutton, in my opinion, is nothing more than a wide receiver, a high-end wide receiver 3 play, which means that even with this injury, I'm not necessarily super excited to play him. Okay, so if you do have another option, I would consider going with them because we just don't know what Sutton's going to look like coming off of this shoulder injury. And in addition to, what are the other options in this offense going to do from a target perspective? Are they going to soak up these targets and take away the overall workload and ceiling that Cortland Sutton would have? So Noah Fant, this also bumps him down the rankings a little bit too, because is he going to see the target totals that he did last week? Again, this is a tough matchup for them. So I'm not necessarily super excited about starting any of them. I think you can bump them down your rankings a little bit. Jerry Jeudy is a flex play at best. He's not someone that I'm necessarily looking at. And KJ Hamler shouldn't be anywhere near your starting lineup. I think he can pop. So again, I'll mention this kind of in the same way of LaMichael Pirine. If he is on your waiver wire in a dynasty league, pick him up because he is an extremely talented wide receiver. And I think could take one to the house, right? And be someone that you could rely on down the road. Devonte Parker is expected to play, the Miami Dolphins wide receiver. He is active in this matchup. So again, this is tempering expectations. You have Tre'Davious White going to be shadowing him. This is someone that is nothing more than a wide receiver 3 play. I don't understand how Devonte Parker is playing after leaving last week's matchup. This is just not one that I'm like super excited about. So temper your expectations there. Golden Tate, New York Giants wide receiver, is expected to play. I'm not looking his way at all for fantasy football. This is something that does hurt Darius Slayton, in my opinion. In a tough matchup, this kind of just limits, again, this was the argument all offseason long, was if all 3 of these wide receivers are healthy, I don't know if there's necessarily a path for a true ceiling with any of these guys. So Golden Tate, I would recommend sitting him if you can. Michael Pittman Jr. is expected to play in this matchup, but again, he's not someone that you should be considering yet. He's more of a down-the-road play that I'm super excited about. Zach Pascal, again, the Indianapolis wide receiver, is expected to play. So people who were excited about Paris Campbell in this matchup, like exploding, I don't think you can fully rely on that with both Pittman and Zach Pascal playing. So again, T.Y. Hilton and Paris Campbell are your main options here, but T.Y. Hilton is a wide receiver, a back-end wide receiver 2 for me, and Campbell is a wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4. Gerald Everett, Los Angeles Rams tight end. Again, not really relevant for fantasy football, but this does limit Tyler Higbee's ceilings. Higbee was someone that I was super excited about in this matchup because Everett was going to be sitting, but he's not someone that I am now super excited about. He's still a top 10 option, but I bumped him down my rankings just before starting recording here. Brandon Cooks is expected to play. Again, he's not someone that you can fully rely on yet until we see him fully healthy in this lineup, and it's a tough matchup against Baltimore. Julian Edelman and N'Keal Harry, both New England Patriots wide receivers, are expected to play. Edelman is a wide receiver 3 play at best, and N'Keal Harry is someone that I think should be rostered in all formats, but not someone that you should be looking at to start. Henry Ruggs is a game time decision, and with that being the Monday night matchup, if you're torn between 2 players and Ruggs is one of them, I would recommend going with the other one, just because you don't want to get to the point on Monday night where you find out an hour before kickoff that Henry Ruggs is inactive, and now you have to panic because you don't have another option that you can plug in. Okay, so just kind of play the odds there. And again, even if Ruggs does play, I'm not super excited. This is a very, very tough matchup. Okay, those are all the actives and inactives. I'm sure that we'll get to some more in-depth conversation here, but let's go to your questions here. I've got my producer, Chris. Everyone say hi to Chris in the chat, by the way. He's awesome. He is feeding me the questions here. We got Math Quest, Jonathan Taylor or Kenyon Drake in standard scoring non-PPR. This is a tough matchup for Kenyon Drake, and it's a fine matchup for Jonathan Taylor. With Jonathan Taylor being now the main starter in this backfield, I expect the Colts to go back to the drawing board and say, we do not like the fact that Phillip Rivers threw the ball 46 times last week. Let's get back to the ground game. Let's rely on Jonathan Taylor. In standard, I will go Jonathan Taylor there. Jonathan McMaster, Chenault, Christian Kirk, or Russell Gage. Christian Kirk does not belong anywhere near your starting lineup, in my opinion. Laviska Shenault is an intriguing hold in redraft leagues right now, but I want to see what his involvement looks like in this offense moving forward. Again, I talked about it on the podcast this week that Shenault, he scored last week, so you were happy that you started him. But if he didn't score, you weren't starting him, of course. But yet, like that's kind of the mindset. If he scores, you're going to be happy that you started him. If he doesn't, I don't know if he's going to have the target volume to necessarily be a reliable flex option. Russell Gage, 12 targets last week. That is reliable. And so moving forward, and especially in this matchup against Dallas, this is going to be a shootout. I want all the receiving options that I can get. I'm going to go Russell Gage there. Daniel Edwards, should I start trading Joe Mixon? No, because here's the issue that if you trade Joe Mixon, unless you find someone in your league who is willing to quote-unquote overpay, you are not going to get value for Joe Mixon at this point. With Mixon, I'll say disappointing, right? Like, he's been fine. He's been getting the workload, but it's been Zach Taylor who has been pulling him off the field. Mixon was a fine RB2 start this week. He got you around 12 points in half PPR, so that's a fine RB2. But I think for people who were looking to have him as his top 5 option, which I was expecting based on the usage that we saw at the end of last season, now it's just a question of Zach Taylor and his usage of Joe Mixon. Taking him off the field for Gio Bernard when you're trailing that much just doesn't make sense. So, but back to your question, with start trading Joe Mixon, no, because you're not going to find someone who's going to give you the value that you need to make that trade worthwhile. If you find someone who is willing to give you a Dalvin Cook for Joe Mixon, right? Like, which isn't going to happen. It's just not, unless they're the biggest Bengals fan in the world, right? So I think that's just not going to happen. I would recommend holding Joe Mixon and still just plugging him into your lineup. You have to rely on the carry totals. 19 carries the week before, consistent carry totals, and again, we saw 4 for 40 through the air this week. So I think it will bounce back eventually, but people are starting to panic on Joe Mixon. I'm starting to get concerned. But yet, I don't think that you should trade him and sell low. Michael Gallup, Deontay Johnson, Will Fuller, DJ Chark, and Kupp. You need 2 in standard formats. Michael Gallup is going to be one of them because, again, I talked about this matchup. I think Gallup has a very, very good chance to score and explode. And if we didn't have that play at the end of the game last week, then we would be talking about Gallup as a fine play last week. That was going to be a big gain and would have put him up around like a 4 for 90, I think, game. So that would have been great. I think he has a great chance to score in this matchup. Again, I'm starting all receivers that I can. So Will Fuller, I don't like the matchup for him this week. DJ Chark, only 3 targets last week. That's concerning. I expect that to bounce back. It's between Deontay Johnson and Cooper Kupp for me. I'm going to lean into my rankings here, and I'm going to go with Cooper Kupp. I'm double checking that right now, though. Fantastic dead air. I actually have DJ Chark as a top 10 option this week, guys. I'm going to go with DJ Chark here. Okay, I'm going to pivot, and I'll go with DJ Chark. So DJ Chark and Michael Gallup. I like Chark's bounce back opportunity here. Andy Mendez, Will Fuller, or Emmanuel Sanders in full PPR. I will go with Fuller because in a full PPR because I think he's going to see more targets. I don't think his usage is going to be the same as what we've come to know with Will Fuller, with him being targeted deep downfield. I think he is the fill-in right now for DeAndre Hopkins in that role in that offense, which was a lot of short to intermediate passing. And so I'll go with Will Fuller there, but that's pretty close. Cynthia, Terry McLaurin or Devonte Parker in full PPR. I'm going to go with Terry McLaurin here just because I don't know. There's always the possibility that Devonte Parker aggravates that hamstring injury again during the game and he leaves. And again, it's a tough matchup. So I'm going to go with Terry McLaurin here, but I'm not expecting anything more than low-end wide receiver 2 production from either one of them. Benny Snell or Myles Gaskin as your RB2 in a half PPR from Chris L. I'm not going anywhere near Myles Gaskin. Personally, I know that Dan Harris was super excited about Myles Gaskin, but I'm not going anywhere near him. I'll start Benny Snell here, but I'm not expecting RB2 production. I've got Snell and Connor back-to-back as like RB29 and RB30 in my rankings. Again, I'll pull that up, but we just have no idea. We have no idea what the workload is going to be for this backfield now. With Connor back and active and Snell looking fantastic last week, we just have no idea. So these guys are nothing more than RB3s for me, in my opinion. But if you're forced to start one of them as your RB2 and you have injury concern, you have injuries above on your fantasy football roster, I would go with Benny Snell. Noah Davis, Noah Fant, Chris Herndon, or Logan Thomas here in full PPR. I'm going to go with Chris Herndon here. The full PPR breaks it for me. It's between Noah Fant and Chris Herndon. I'm not super excited as everyone else about Logan Thomas yet. I want to see it play out for more than 1 week before we go all in and start him over someone like a Noah Fant, the talent level of a Noah Fant, or even Chris Herndon. Chris Herndon's a talented tight end. In a full PPR, I will go with Chris Herndon here, just because I think, again, like I mentioned, essentially no other great receiving options for the New York Jets. I think Herndon could be targeted heavily this game. I will go with Herndon here in that full PPR. Thank you for including the league settings there. Okay, guys, I want to take just a quick second to remind you, if you have not already, please subscribe to our channel. We are just skyrocketing up as far as our subscribers. It is fantastic to see. Like 2 or 3 weeks ago, we were all excited about in our Slack chat about how we hit 50,000 subscribers. Guys, we just passed 70,000 this morning, and it's all because of you guys and your support that we are doing more and more live streams, right? I'm on Tuesday with Dan. I'm on Thursday by myself answering your start sit questions. And then again, we've got Dan on Instagram on Sunday mornings from 10 to 11, tags on YouTube from 11 to 12, and then me now. So this is all because of your support and you guys hitting that subscribe button, liking the video. It's not that much, guys, but it makes all the difference in the world. So thank you so much for hitting that subscribe button, hitting the like button on this video. And again, you can find and follow me on Twitter at KyleYNFL. Let's get back to your questions here. Ben Guthrie, I've got an open bench spot on the roster. Should I pick up Josh Kelly, James Robinson, or Leonard Fournette? I am going to go, if you have an open bench spot, and this is something that you are just, like, I've got an open spot and I want to see what happens. I think Josh Kelly is a play here because I think he can easily assume this Melvin Gordon role in this offense, and I do expect this offense to bounce back from what we saw them put up in week 1. So I think it's only going to get better from here. Josh Kelly is the upside play. James Robinson is someone that you pick up if you need someone right now. Like for going back to like Chris L. Like if he is deciding between Benny Snell and Myles Gaskin because he has a desperate need at running back, and James Robinson is on his roster, then it's like, okay, go pick up James Robinson because they're a better option than those two right now. But yet Leonard Fournette is the long-term hold to see what happens with this backfield. Based on what I'm expecting and projecting for this game, he's not taking over this backfield anytime soon because Ronald Jones is going to go off in this matchup. So I would go with Josh Kelly there if that is the play where I just need an upside play, someone that I can hold on to and hope that they hit, hope that they can hit their ceiling. That's Josh Kelly for me. John Lamer, a half PPR, Scotty Miller, Anthony Miller, or Traquan Smith. This is close. Traquan Smith isn't in the consideration, but it's close between Scotty Miller and Anthony Miller for me. And it would come down to what I need at my roster. Do I need that like safe, 9 targets, reeling in 7 of them for 70 yards, right? In a half PPR, that's going to be enough to just give me that safe floor. If I need the upside play, if I am, I had some of these, let's say that I had an AJ Green, right? And on Thursday night's matchup, who didn't produce for my lineup. I need more points. I need the touchdown upside here. I'm going to go with Anthony Miller in this matchup because I think he has a better chance of scoring than Scotty Miller, but he might not see the target totals that Scotty Miller would. Does that make sense? So I'm going to go with Scotty Miller if I need safety. I'm going to go with Anthony Miller if I need to compensate for other options on my roster and I need the upside play. Hal Warning, quarterbacks, Wentz or Tannehill. I'm going to go with Tannehill here. I really like Tannehill. I liked what I saw from the Titans offense last week with them picking up the pace of play. We saw them run a significant amount more of plays than they did last season even. So if that's the case, then you're looking at more fantasy opportunity for Ryan Tannehill. With these options, I expect a huge day from Derrick Henry, in which only opens things up for the quarterback in this play, with play action, everything like that. So Tannehill against this Jags defense, I am really, really all in this week. I love him. I'll play Tannehill over Carson Wentz. Josh Hanser, pick 2, DK Metcalf, CeeDee Lamb, or Paris Campbell. DK Metcalf is one of them for sure. And then I am going to go with... I'm going to go with CeeDee Lamb here because I want, again, I've talked about it, this Atlanta and in Dallas matchup, I want as many pieces of it as I can. So I'm going to go with CeeDee Lamb here, but that's close. Dylan Herron, DK Metcalf, Melvin Gordon, Julian Edelman, or Nyheim Hines. Pick one wide receiver and one flex in a full PPR. I'm going to go with DK Metcalf here, and I'm going to go with Nyheim Hines, especially in a full PPR. I like that combo. All right. And then David Gallagher, Hunter Henry, or Tyler Higbee. In a half PPR, I'm going to go with Hunter Henry here. In a game where I expect the Chargers to have to keep up, obviously keep up with the Chiefs offense and pass the ball quite a bit here, I'm going to go with Hunter Henry. Again, Gerald Everett coming back into the lineup just kind of, gives me some caution here with plugging Higbee into my lineup. So I will go with Hunter Henry there. Andrew Valenzuela, need help, Malcolm Brown or J.K. Dobbins. Dobbins at this point is nothing more than a running back 3 option that could hit because we just don't have any clarity on what Greg Roman plans to do with these backs. Mark Ingram could easily come out here and be the goal line back this week and could score the 2 touchdowns that J.K. Dobbins did, and Dobbins only gets 6 carries and for 30 yards, and that's it. So, we just don't know, which sucks for us, right, as fantasy managers, and there's no way that we can predict it because he has said it's going to change week in and week out. So, Dobbins is not a safe play by any means. He's only someone that I'm rolling into my lineup if I can absolutely just deal with the fact that he can only score 3 points, or he could absolutely boom. So Malcolm Brown is the one that I'm going to lean on his carry totals from last week, his involvement in the offense. I will go with Malcolm Brown over J.K. Dobbins. Joseph Knight, Jonnu, or Hayden Hurst in a full PPR. This is like asking which child is your favorite. I'm going to go with Jonnu Smith here just because, again, I talked about with A.J. Brown officially out of this matchup, that opens things up for Jonnu Smith. So Hayden Hurst, though, again, in this matchup, I've talked about it several times so far, he could absolutely go off. So I have both of these guys for context. I have Jonnu Smith in my rankings right now as tight end 5. I have Hayden Hurst at tight end 6, guys. So I'm really fine with either one of them. I think that Jonnu, we've seen it happen, right? We've seen Jonnu be the guy in this offense that can score. We've seen his involvement, significant target totals from last week. Hayden Hurst is more of a projection. I think he will eventually become this guy, and it could happen as early as this game, but we've seen it happen with Jonnu, so that's the tiebreaker. But again, these guys are back-to-back, Joseph. I'm fine with either one of them. Ben Blum, Julian Edelman, or CeeDee Lamb. This, again, comes down to what do you need? Do you need the safety at your wide receiver 3 spot? Do you need someone who is going to soak up targets and, give you a safe floor, kind of like a Scotty Miller, right? Or do you need a potential upside play in your flex or wide receiver 3 spot? Then I would go with CeeDee Lamb because he has an excellent chance to score in this matchup. In your flex, J.K. Dobbins, Will Fuller, or Corey Davis in standard. I will go with Corey Davis here. I think that he has a chance of actually really hitting in this matchup. It's more of a concern. I don't like the matchup for Will Fuller. I've talked about it. So I will go with Corey Davis here. I like the matchup more. And then again, Dobbins, I've talked about him. He's nothing more than an RB3, someone that could produce, but we just have no idea. Quick drink. Matt F. In a half PPR, Keenan Allen or Deontay Johnson in the flex. This is close. I'm going to let my rankings speak for me here. I have Keenan Allen at wide receiver 19, and I have Deontay Johnson at wide receiver 23. So I'm going to go and just lean on my rankings here and my process. I'm going to go with Keenan Allen. I think that he, again, in a matchup, I've talked about Hunter Henry, in a matchup where they're going to have to be throwing the ball, I like Keenan Allen here. Tyler Andrews, Todd Gurley, or Raheem Mostert in half PPR. I'm going to go with Todd Gurley. Throughout the week, I just kept moving Todd Gurley up and up my rankings. I've got Todd Gurley at RB8 this week, guys. I think Mostert, again, because of the scoring opportunity, high over-under, Mostert comes with the concerns of this is a tough Jets run defense, and he's splitting the backfield with 2 other options here with Tevin Coleman and Jerick McKinnon. Yes, Mostert saw 4 or 5 targets last week. I can't remember off the top of my head, but yet, and he produced, right? He took one of them for however many yards. It was a magnificent play, utilizing his speed, but yet those are not the plays that we can bet on, right? They can happen every once in a while, but me going through and like projecting and doing my projections, which is what I do, right? I'm never going to sit down and I'm going to project Raheem Mostert for 4, receptions for 125 yards and a score, right? Like averaging, that many yards per reception. So Todd Gurley in an excellent chance to score. He is the main back, unquestioned back in this dynamic offense that runs an insane amount of plays. I think what we could see in San Francisco is them just saying, like, we're just going to utilize all 3 of these backs evenly and just come out of this game that they should easily win, rely on their defense. And I think that Mostert, of course he can score, but yeah, I'm not as excited about Mostert as I am Todd Gurley. I have Mostert down at RB26, and I have Todd Gurley at RB8, guys. So that's a big split. So obviously, Tyler, I'm going to go with Todd Gurley there. Logan S., Gardner Minshew or Miles Sanders in your flex spot. I'm assuming that this is a super flex league. If that is the case, then I'm going with Minshew. In a Superflex league, you need to be playing a quarterback there, and I like Minshew this week. Miles Sanders comes with concerns. We haven't even talked about him yet. He's going to be playing in this game, but yet what's his involvement, right? We just have no idea what his involvement in this offense is going to look like. So he's at, and I was talking about this with Tags and Dan this morning, that Miles Sanders, I just don't know where to rank him. I have him at RB25 right now because I'm just like, I don't know what his involvement is going to look like. With him coming off of not practicing or playing for a full month. Yes, he got in some practices this week, and that's great. But yeah, that's completely different than, game speed and him getting up to speed here. So I'm going to go with Gardner Minshew. To double back to your question, Logan, I will go with Gardner Minshew there over Miles Sanders. Justin Gervin, James Conner or Zach Moss. These guys are kind of in the same territory here where I just don't really know what to do with them, right? Zach Moss was terrible on the ground last week, 1.2 yards per carry or something like that. Again, the Jets' run defense is a pretty stout unit, but yet he scored, so he was fine. But yet, with James Conner, he comes with this ceiling if he's going to get his full workload. But again, we just have no idea if that's the case. So with either of them, I'm just kind of tempering expectations here. I'm not super excited about either of them, but yet I think you can plug in Zach Moss over James Conner and expect RB3 production, because there's also the possibility that we see this backfield become a full, the Steelers backfield become a full 50-50 split. And then at that point, what's James Conner getting? 8 carries, 9 carries? And the way he looked last week, that's just not going to be enough. So I will go with Zach Moss there, just playing the until we get the full certainty of what the backfield looks like this week. That's, again, a backfield that I will be watching closely. I'm going to go with Zach Moss there. All right, doubling back here. I got to find my spot. I don't know where the heck I was. Xander Hope, full PPR. Nyheim Hines, Melvin Gordon, or Mark Ingram. I'm going to go with Nyheim Hines here, especially in a full PPR. Melvin Gordon, tough matchup here against the Steelers defense. And I'll touch on this super quick. So a lot of people are scared about Melvin Gordon because of what they saw the Steelers defense do to Saquon Barkley last week. Let me just say this. Saquon Barkley's production last week was not because Saquon Barkley was inefficient or because the Steelers defense was anything extraordinary, right? They're a solid unit. I'm not taking anything away from them. They did their jobs. This was Saquon Barkley's lack of production last week because of Jason Garrett and terrible offensive game planning. I put out on Twitter earlier this week a video clip of some sort of counter play, but it is just it's great when you sit down in your office and you doodle up this play and you're like, this will work. But then when you're going up against and you have Bud Dupree coming off the edge and he goes unblocked and gets Saquon Barkley in the backfield, which happened multiple times during that game, because you're pulling an offensive guard, you're pulling your right guard across the entire formation and expecting him to block Bud Dupree coming off the edge. Yeah, not working in reality. So Saquon Barkley's production, or again, lack of last week, was not because Saquon Barkley was just terrible on the ground. He literally could not do anything. By the time that he got the ball, there was a defender in his lap. And so this week, I don't think that Melvin Gordon, again, he is the unquestioned starter in this backfield. Yes, you will see Royce Freeman factor in, but yet Gordon is going to get all the goal line touches. He's going to get the majority of the work. I think he is a safe RB2 option. Mark Ingram, again, comes with the uncertainty with J.K. Dobbins. Both of them are RB3s, in my opinion, where we just have no freaking clue what the heck this backfield is going to look like. I'm not ruling out either of them with confidence. Nyheim Hines, with Jack Doyle out, could see even an uptick in targets from what you saw last week. So in a full PPR, I'm going to let that decide it for me, and I'm going to go with Nyheim Hines here. I really like Hines this week. Jacoby Whitmire, Hollywood Brown, or David Johnson in full PPR. Guys, I'll put this out right now. I love Hollywood Brown this week. I've got him at like wide receiver 14. So in this matchup, lining up against Bradley Roby, which I expect, again, no defense in the entire NFL at this point can slow down Lamar Jackson. It's just not happening. With Hollywood Brown doing what he did last week, 6 targets, 5 receptions, 101 yards, no score. Even with that, I think Hollywood Brown can easily repeat that production this week and find the end zone. So I love Hollywood Brown this week. David Johnson on the other side of the ball, very, very tough matchup. And I'm tempering expectations here. Again, I know people say that I say that phrase all the time. I'm trying to find a different way to say it. David Johnson is a low-end RB2 for me at this point. I'm not super excited. Andrew, sorry, buddy. I'm not going to try to pronounce your last name. I will just butcher it. Matt Ryan or Dak Prescott. Guys, Dak Prescott. I love Dak in this matchup. And people are going to be out on Dak because of what happened last week, where he didn't necessarily look great, even what I expected to be a complete shootout. This will be a full shootout game. I love Dak, love all the Dallas options. I have Dak with his rushing ability. That's what splits it here. Because again, I'm talking about both quarterbacks on either side of the ball here. Matt Ryan doesn't rush the way that Dak Prescott does. So I have Dak at QB2 on the week. I have Matt Ryan at QB7. So I'm leaning into Dak Prescott here and his rushing ability to bring him over the top there above Matt Ryan. Eric Sanchez. I'm in a half PPR league. Should I go with Sammy Watkins or John Brown? This is a good question. Sammy Watkins, both of them are a little bit, have question marks, right? I'll just phrase it that way. Both of them have question marks. Sammy Watkins looked awesome last week. He looked to be a key part of this offense, the clear wide receiver 2 in this offense, and the third receiving option behind Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill. But yet, he's done this before. He's fooled us before, where he's come out and put up these dominant performances. It just happened to be in week 1 of last year. So if you're rolling out either of these guys, they're not guarantees. So I think you need to be just okay with the fact that they could boom or they could disappoint. John Brown should have had 2 touchdowns last week. We can talk about that with Josh Allen just missing him wide open in the end zone. So I think John Brown could have had even 2 touchdowns last week. But again, I think with this matchup against Miami and Miami's corners, I'm not super excited. I will go with Sammy Watkins here. But again, I'm not necessarily yeah, let's go. I'm super pumped up about that. I think with Sammy Watkins, he has the best chance of returning value, though. Zach Miller, full point PPR. Antonio Gibson or DeAndre Swift for the second flex spot. I will go with DeAndre Swift here. With Antonio Gibson, I think that he has a enormous ceiling down the road, but yet we're just not seeing enough right away, or at least enough usage right away to be that guy. DeAndre Swift, again, goal line carry last week and a target in the end zone. Yes, he dropped it. We've talked about that. I want to move on, but yet I think that you can at least rely on DeAndre Swift with those opportunities in the key areas of the field. Gibson can, of course, break off one big play, and he has the talent to do that, and absolutely just make his fantasy day. But yet, I think DeAndre Swift, you have to lean into the usage in the key parts of the field there. I'll go with DeAndre Swift for my second flex spot. All right, Kayla Fellows, Corey Davis, or Anthony Miller in a full PPR. I think Davis has more of a path for more targets here in the with AJ Brown missing. So I think with Davis there's 8-9 targets is in the cards, is in the realm of possibilities there. Anthony Miller, in this offense, I'd like him to score. I think he has an excellent chance to score, but yet 6 targets max. So I think I'll go with Corey Davis there in a full PPR. Just lean into the target volume. Travis Fretwell, Deshaun Watson, or Kirk Cousins. Even though it's not a fantastic matchup for Deshaun Watson, I still like him, and I still like his ability to scramble and pick up those rushing yards. With Kirk Cousins, the thing with this Minnesota Vikings offense with Gary Kubiak as the offensive coordinator is that they're going to run the ball until they have to throw it. So with Kirk Cousins, against this defense, he could hit one or two of those big deep shots downfield, and he's an excellent downfield passer to Adam Thielen, but I don't want to rely on that. So I think with Watson, and again, with the way that the quarterback position is played for fantasy football, where the rushing ability at the quarterback position is king, I'm going to lean into Watson there, even though it is a tough matchup. I've got Watson at QB 10 in my rankings, and I've got Kirk Cousins at QB 18. So I'll lean into Watson there. Brandon Dormetti starts Scotty Miller, Nyheim Hines, or Julian Edelman in full PPR. I'm going to go with Nyheim Hines here. I think that Scotty Miller and Edelman are fine options, in a full PPR, but I don't know if they have an excellent chance to score. With Nyheim Hines, he always had 2 touchdowns last week, so it's in the cards. It's in the realm of possibilities, and against this matchup, this is not the Vikings defense of old that we've come to know. So Nyheim Hines here is going to be my option in a full PPR. Roman Alfaro, pick 1. Keenan Allen, Cortland Sutton, James Conner in the flex position. Keenan Allen here. Cortland Sutton and James Conner come with huge question marks, so I'll go with Keenan Allen. A. McKinney, MVS, or Will Fuller. I'm going to go with Will Fuller here. MVS, I want to see it happen for one more week and see his involvement. Even though I do really like Aaron Rodgers, you're betting on a touchdown for him to make his day. So I don't know if that's really a place that I want to be comfortable with. Will Fuller has guaranteed target volume. I just don't know if it's going to equate to a ton. But as far as playing the cards and playing what could happen there, I'll lean into Will Fuller. Ethan Golding, Superflex, QB2, Jimmy G or Trubisky? And so I'll answer that question first. As your Superflex, as your second quarterback, it feels gross, but I'm going to go with Trubisky here. Jimmy Garoppolo without George Kittle, with Mohamed Sanu coming in. Brandon Ayuk, there's just no chemistry. There's no familiarity here. Even though it is a great matchup, as far as the New York Jets corners, they can easily be beat. I just don't know if I want to rely on that. With Trubisky, this is an excellent matchup against the Giants, and he comes with the rushing ability. Now, is there always a possibility that he gets pulled at halftime? Sure. It's gross. It doesn't feel great. But the way that he looked in the fourth quarter, I'm fine rolling him out there as a QB2 in a Superflex league, because I think what's the possibility here, right? Can we say that last week was just rust? Can we say that the way that he looked in the first 3 quarters? Again, I'm not sitting here saying that Trubisky is a top 12 quarterback, so please don't hear me say that. But can we say that this and acknowledge that there was no preseason? There was no way for Trubisky to get into game action. And so what he saw at the end of the game last week was that him finally clicking and finally getting into rhythm. So I'm willing to roll the dice here as my QB2 with Trubisky, because he has the receiving weapons. That was weapons and options combined. He has the receiving options here, and I think that he has, again, the chance to rush for 20, 30 yards. That just inflates his value there. So, and then the second part of your question there, Ethan, of Latavius Murray or Anthony Miller, I will go with Latavius Murray. Talked about him in as far as having him as a top 24 option this week. Love him. For those who are just joining, tuning in, of course, we've got people coming and going. Thank you so much for joining. Again, I'm Kyle Yates of the FantasyPros Football Podcast. And again, thank you so much for joining. If you're just joining, guys, please hit the subscribe button, hit the like button on this video. It helps us out in a huge way. And again, you can find and follow me on Twitter at KyleY NFL. Let's keep going here. Kyle Kilburn, DJ Chark, or Robbie Anderson in PPR. I'm going to lean into, I like Robbie Anderson, but I like Robbie Anderson as a wide receiver 3 or flex play. DJ Chark, I have, again, in my top 10 this week, guys. So I love his opportunity. I love his bounce back. And the reason why I love his opportunity to bounce back is because Gardner Minshew only threw the ball 20 times last week. That is not going to be the norm here with this Jacksonville offense, right? And especially when you pair it with the Jacksonville defense. So I expect more passing volume, more opportunity here for DJ Chark. And I'm willing to roll the dice and say that Chark finds the end zone and gets back on track with his chemistry. We've seen last season, Minshew and Chark have some incredible chemistry. So I'm willing to roll the dice here, especially when you put it in comparison of a Robbie Anderson. If this was a choice of where you had to choose between a DJ Chark and, a Marquise Brown, that would be more of a difficult conversation for me. That would be more difficult for me to fully determine. But yet, at this point, when you're looking at Robbie Anderson, who I only like as a wide receiver 3 flex play, I'll go with DJ Chark here. Has more of a path for returning top 15 value. Luke Sharp, love your show, Yates. This is the best fantasy football podcast ever. Thank you so much. Pick 2 of 3 in a full PPR. David Johnson, Miles Sanders, or DJ Moore. DJ Moore is one of them, especially in a full PPR. This is a tough matchup. I'm not projecting a top 10 week for DJ Moore by any means, but yet in a full PPR, he got the opportunities last week. Had an end zone target too. That didn't get talked about a ton, but had an end zone target. Wasn't able to reel it in. But his day easily could have been saved with that touchdown. And then this is part of what I was talking about with Tags and Dan earlier. Was like, I just don't know what to do with Miles Sanders. I don't know if I'm fully confident plugging him into my lineup. But yet when you put it in the context of David Johnson up against the Baltimore defense and Miles Sanders, I might go Miles Sanders there, guys, but that's super close in a full PPR. I don't know. I'll go Miles Sanders. Miles Sanders and DJ Moore. But again, you hear it in my voice. I'm not super confident. Chad asked Dak or Rodgers in full PPR. Chad, you're talking about my QB2 for the week and my QB3. So take your pick. I don't think you can go wrong with either one of them. Dak in this game has a chance to absolutely explode with how many points should be up on the board. Aaron Rodgers, of course, is looking like a man on a mission this week and this year, and this is a great matchup for him with Detroit's corners just in question marks. So again, I'm fine with either one, Chad. I think both of them are top 5 options. Take your pick. But I would be going with Dak over Rodgers. But again, that's like decimal points in my projections. Dan Fontes, Hayden Hurst, Tariq Cohen, or Paris Campbell in a full PPR flex, and you need upside. So thank you for including that. Paris Campbell, I don't see the full upside here, right? I think he is a fine like PPR flex option, again, in the realm of someone like a little bit, a tier above like a Scotty Miller or Julian Edelman. So, because I think that he's a better athlete at this point of his career. So I think with Paris Campbell, he can give you that safe floor. Tariq Cohen, I expect his usage to bounce back. It wasn't totally it was a weird game last week, right, with the Bears and Lions. I think it was just a weird game all around. So I'm not fully willing to just write off Tariq Cohen yet at this point. With Hayden Hurst, we haven't seen it yet, right? I think there is the upside in this matchup, so he might actually be the one that I go with here because he can easily score in a game that should be the highest scoring matchup of the entire week. Tariq Cohen just has too many question marks for me to be able to say, like, yes, plug him in, especially if you're wanting upside. And Paris Campbell, I don't think is the full upside play. So if you are absolutely desperate and you need like a full, complete upside play, I think Hayden Hurst is your answer. Mathis asks, Mostert or Rojo? That's Ronald Jones for me. Looking at my running back rankings, I have Ronald Jones at RB14, guys. I love Ronald Jones this week in this matchup against the Carolina Panthers defense that just gave up 3 touchdowns to Ronald Jones. So, yeah, plug in Ronald Jones anywhere that you've got him. Super excited. Raheem Mostert, I talked about him earlier. I'm not super excited about it. I don't want to bank on the fact that he's going to break off a 70-yard, reception or run every single week. And again, it's a tough matchup. So I think Rojo is the play here. Ricardo Ruiz in your flex. Ayuk or Scotty Miller in a half PPR. I'm going to go with Scotty Miller. Ayuk, again, great matchup, but he's a rookie and coming off of not playing. So I want to wait a week before I see what the heck I need to do with Brandon Ayuk. Scotty Miller, 9 targets last week. So, and that was with Godwin in the lineup. So I'm willing to go with Scotty Miller here. John asked Ronald Jones, Austin Eckler, or David Johnson in a half PPR. This is where it gets interesting because David Johnson, again, I talked about the matchup, not super excited. He's a low-end RB2 for me. Ronald Jones and Austin Eckler, I have them back-to-back in my rankings in half PPR. Jones at 14, Eckler at 15. So Jones has the better matchup, I'll say that. Eckler has a chance to see more touches. So, but again, these guys are back-to-back. I'm going to let my rankings speak for itself. And I'm going to go with Ronald Jones here. Love him in this matchup. I think he can score multiple times. Deontay Johnson or Nyheim Hines. There's no format here listed, so this would probably shift things for me. If it's a full PPR, I'm going to go with Nyheim Hines. If it's standard, I'm going to go with Deontay Johnson because I think he has an excellent chance to score. And again, 10 targets last week, got into rhythm with Big Ben in the second half. So Deontay Johnson in standard, Nyheim Hines in a full PPR. Deontay Johnson or Julian Edelman. I'll go with Deontay Johnson there. Seth asks Dallas Goedert or Tyler Higbee in full PPR. I will go with Higbee here. I expect the Eagles offense to get back on track to actually like playing competent football and saying like we need to get the ball out quickly. We can't have Wentz holding onto the ball as long as he was last week, constantly looking for that deep shot downfield to Jalen Reagor, to Dallas Goedert, right? Deshaun Jackson. Like we just can't have that happening with this offensive line. So get the ball out quick. I expect Zach Ertz's value to bounce back this week. And I just can't trust a second tight end on an NFL roster more than a tight end one who has shown that he can be dominant. So Goddard is one of the most elite handcuffs in all of fantasy football. I've met tight end 14 this week, so I still think he has an excellent chance to score. I still think he can see those 5 to 6 targets and of course one deep shot downfield that can absolutely make his fantasy day. But Higbee is going to be the one that I roll with here. I have Higbee I'll put this into context. I have Higbee at tight end 9, and I have Dallas Goedert at tight end 13. All right. Todd Luther, full flex tight end for the next 3 weeks, Jonnu or Gronk. Have you listened to me talk ever? It's Jonnu Smith. That's not even close. No, Todd. With Jonnu Smith's opportunity with Gronk, he looked like a player who had taken an entire year off of football. Okay, so with Gronk, I just think that he doesn't see the involvement in this offense that would justify rolling him out week after week. I think he's someone that he could pick it up towards the end of the year, right, as he gets acclimated back to in football shape. But Jonnu is the clear guy in this offense, and I love his opportunity again this week with A.J. Brown missing. Brian asks Cortland Sutton or Paris Campbell. I will roll with Paris Campbell there if I need safety. If I need the huge upside play, then I'm going to go with Cortland Sutton, because I think that Sutton, even though he's dealing with this injury and has those concerns, I think that he can still reel in a big touchdown. He can still be the guy that Drew Lock looks to in the red zone. So if I need the upside play, I will go with Cortland Sutton there. But if I need just the safety and guaranteed workload, then I'll go with Paris Campbell. Aiden Gilroy, Stephon Diggs, or Deontay Johnson. That's close. I think it's going to be Johnson, but I'm looking in my rankings right now. I have Deontay Johnson at wide receiver 23, and I have Stephon Diggs at wide receiver 29. So I will go with Johnson there. Ray Beach, Todd Gurley, or Jonathan Taylor in full PPR. This is close. Both of these guys are top 14 options for me this week. I have Todd Gurley all the way up at RB8. I'm willing to roll with him this week over Jonathan Taylor. But again, you're talking about 2 top-tier options. I just think Todd Gurley has more of an opportunity for scoring opportunities in this matchup, again, in what should be a very, very high-scoring game. So Jonathan Taylor could see 20 carries, and maybe 4 or 5 targets out of the backfield. But yet, I just don't, at this point, until we see a drop-off from Todd Gurley as far as his injury concerns, and we see him start to wear down as the season goes on, he belongs in your starting lineup. So I'll go with Todd Gurley. There, excuse me. Bernardo B., Robbie Anderson, or Cortland Sutton today. This is an interesting question. And this is probably the line for me, right? Where I talk about Cortland Sutton as a wide receiver 3. Robbie Anderson is in that same territory. Anderson comes with more upside, I believe. I think that he is quickly establishing himself as a 1A, 1B situation here in Carolina. I expect Carolina to be throwing the ball a ton. Now, this Tampa Bay defense is really, really good. And so I think that I'm not necessarily projecting Robbie Anderson to do what he did last week, but I like him over Cortland Sutton because he doesn't come with the injury concerns. Matthew Kratz, Stafford or Tannehill this week. I will go with Tannehill. Andre K., Hayden Hurst, or TJ Hawkinson. I will go... Ooh, that's pretty close. I will go with Hayden Hurst. Yeah, I have Hurst all the way up at tight end 6, and I have TJ Hawkinson at tight end 11. So, yeah, I'll let my rankings speak there. I will go with Hayden Hurst. Ryan Alex asks, Tennessee defense or Washington? Tennessee, I have at defense number 10. I have Washington at 11. So I'm fine with either one of them. I will go with Tennessee there and lean into my rankings. Hurst or Jonnu Smith. We got just a few more minutes here, guys. Hurst or Jonnu Smith asked this in standard, So I had this question earlier. I'm fine with either one of them. I will go with Jonnu Smith here again. The the difference there between half PPR or standard doesn't really change that for me. I'll go with Johnny Smith. Harry Simmons, Frank Gore, or Adrian Peterson. I do not want to start any New York Jets running back, especially against this defense. I will go with Adrian Peterson. I actually like Peterson this week against this defense. Charles Sanchez, Marvin Jones, or Michael Gallup in full PPR. This is pretty close. Let me look at my rankings here. I have Marvin Jones at wide receiver 20 on the week, and I have Michael Gallup at wide receiver 22. So you guys are doing a great job of asking very, very difficult questions for me to answer, because these guys are like back-to-back in my rankings. So with Marvin Jones here, though, I'll go with him because this is a fine matchup. I expect Aaron Rodgers. Again, I'm projecting a huge day for Aaron Rodgers, which means that Matthew Stafford is going to have to throw the ball more. That's an opportunity there for Marvin Jones. I'll go with him, but again, I love Michael Gallup in this matchup too. All right, Drew Brees, Gardner Minshew, or Phillip Rivers. I will go with Gardner Minshew there. I do not want to start Drew Brees in a game without Michael Thomas, and I never want to start Phillip Rivers. I'll just be honest. So Gardner Minshew. Nathan H. asks, half PPR, Nyheim Hines or James Conner? Conner comes with huge concerns and question marks, so I think you need to play it safe. Go with Nyheim Hines here. I think he has more upside in this matchup too. Hollywood Brown or DJ Chark? This is close. Again, I talked about these guys are really, really close in my rankings. So I am going to go with... I can't, even though my rankings say DJ Chark, I think you have to go with Marquise Brown here. I might actually shift this before, now that I'm looking at it, I might shift this before rankings lock, and move DJ Chark down and move Marquise Brown up. So Brown is someone that I'm all in this week. I'll start Marquise Brown there. Alexander, James Conner, or David Montgomery in half PPR. You got to go Montgomery there. I love this matchup for him, and he looked fantastic last week. James Conner did not look fantastic. Frank in standard, and with that other question, Alexander, with James Conner, of course, comes with question marks about his usage with Benny Snell. Frank asked, in standard, Latavius Murray or Mark Ingram. Latavius Murray is the smart play. Ingram can certainly finish above him, but again, we just don't know his usage. Latavius Murray should go off in this matchup with increased workload, with them leaning more on the run game. I love Latavius Murray this week. Have him as a top 24 option in half PPR. In standard, that even goes up because he's going to see a significant amount of carries. So I will lean into Murray there. And then I'll do last question here, guys. Carson Wentz, Big Ben, or Kirk Cousins. I'm going to go with Big Ben there. I like Ben in this matchup here. Yeah, I like Big Ben. I have him at QB 12 this week. I have Carson Wentz at QB 15. And then I have Kirk Cousins at QB 18. Okay, so I will go with Big Ben there. I think that he has an excellent chance to return top 12 value against a Denver defense that is not as solid of a unit as it once was. All right, guys, we did it. We are about to have kickoff here in 30 seconds. Enjoy your football this weekend, guys. So thankful that you tuned in to Fantasy Pros and the YouTube channel. Before you jump off here, make sure to hit that subscribe button, the like button on this video. And again, you can find me on Twitter at Kyle Y NFL. I would love to see you over there. Don't forget, you can find and follow me on Instagram as well at Kyle Y NFL. Guys, enjoy your football. I'm going to time this here really quick. Oh, my word, we are like 10 seconds away from kickoff. So, guys, enjoy your football. May your favorite team win. May all your fantasy teams win. Have a great one, guys. We'll talk to you soon.